Hi there, I'm Shaina Bilow, and I'm here at my local yarn shop, YarnDezvous, in fabulous Teaneck, New Jersey. And I've brought some of my patterns here with me today to show you different yarns that you can use for them. I'll also be putting together a pattern package for the New Jersey Wool Walk and for YarnDezvous. So stop by, shop online, give the store a call. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget your yarn crawl tote bag. All right, so the first pattern that I have is the cedar hat. This is my new design. It's a herringbone stitch pattern made with stranded color work here. And I used 2 colors of sport weight yarn. And so we put together a few options here. We have the Acadia from Fiber Company, and that's a beautiful blend of silk, alpaca, and merino wool. So that's one option. We have the Cascade Yarns Aegean Tweed. Mrs. Crosby Loves to Play. And we have tons of color choices, so be sure to check in with the store. Then we also have Malabrigo Arroyo. So all of those would be great sport weight options for this hat. You can also use multicolors within as one of the colors. That looks really sharp. So that's the hat, and I really happen to be proud of the crown there, how it all comes together into that really awesome star. So that's the first hat, that's the cedar hat. Our next hat over here is the ski bunny hat, and this one is so neat. You cast on here, you work around in the cable pattern, and then you seam it together or graft it, up to you, and then you pick up stitches for the crown and you work the crown on double points or magic loop. And that one fits so comfortably just on the head like this, very trendy. And this looks great with pom-poms, which if you follow me, I'll show you some of the beautiful pom-poms that they have here at YarnDezvous for pom-poms. So you can pick a pom-pom to go with your hat too, and that's really fun. So highly recommend. Then, so I'll show you the yarn that we recommend for that. The Kensington by Haiku would be beautiful for this. It's a nice lofty chainette yarn in a wool, so it would be cozy, warm, and quick to knit. And we've got a lot of colors available for that. One ball would do it for the hat. So that's that one. That's the ski bunny hat. The next hat we have is the checkmate hat, and this one is a chevron made in mosaic knitting with worsted weight yarn, specifically the Malabrigo Rios. And we've picked out a few color combinations here that we thought would be kind of cool and autumnal, really rich in color. And certainly you can pick your own. 1 skein of each would do it. And then we also thought the Swan's Island, if you're more of like an earthy, rustic feel kind of person, the Swan's Island would be gorgeous as well. And that's Rambouillet wool and alpaca. So that one is done with mosaic knitting, and it's a lot of fun. If you haven't tried mosaic knitting, you're missing out. You really should give it a whirl. You're never working with more than 1 color per round. So anytime you're working, say, this grayish row and you need a purple stitch, you would slip it up. It's really fun. Give it a whirl. Now we'll move on to some of the scarves that I have here for us today. One of them here, this is the Hot Flashes cowl. So it's worked on the bias. You cast on here and you work on the bias, which means you're decreasing on one side and increasing on the other. And then you seam it together, and this one can wrap twice around the neck or 3 times if you want it a little more cozy. You can work it shorter, longer, whatever you want. For this, I use the Chopal wool Reggae Ombre, and it's a wool that has this gorgeous self-stripe to it, just like my cowl here. And I love it. It's got a really earthy feel, like a really woolly feel, and it's not densely spun. It's a roving yarn, so it's really very smooth looking. It's a neat yarn. All right, so that is the Hot Flashes cowl. There we go. The next scarf cowl type item I have is my Wildflowers shawl. And this one I'm really proud of. It is a U-shaped shawl. So it's not your standard rectangle, triangle. It happens to be in the shape of a U. And so you're only increasing in one portion of the shawl. This part here is worked straight. This side here is straight. And then in the middle, you've got the shaping. And what that does, this U shape, it makes it stay it makes the shawl stay on your body very easily. So often I'll wear a rectangular shawl and I'll be hitching it up all the time. This just sits so beautifully on the shoulders. I also like to wear it like this, where I put the dip of the U on my shoulder, and then I wrap these two up and it looks like I'm wearing a cape. And again, doesn't fall off, but if you're looking for it, they've got some great shawl pins here at YarnDezvous as well. So you could always get a shawl pin to go with your wildflower shawl. And for that shawl, I recommend the Madeline Tosh Merino Light. It's like the Schopel Reggae Ombre that we just looked at. It's a roving yarn, so it's not plied. It's just a single ply of yarn, and the stitches look so crisp in it. So that is what I would recommend there. It's 100% superwash merino wool, and we've got a lot of colors down at the shop, so check them out. All right, now we've got one more scarf cowl accessory item here, and this one's pretty interesting. This is called Shelter from the Storm, and it's a hooded scarf. So you're knitting two scarves on the bias and then connecting them with a hood. I put this on the other day for my husband. He said I looked like a fairy or an elf. He thought it was pretty cool. He'd never seen this one before. So this is Shelter from the Storm. It's a really roomy hood. I also have this sized for children, so it's a great one if you've got a little one who wants to look whimsical. But this is made with heavy worsted weight yarn. We are recommending the Malabrigo Mecha, which is also like the other two we just looked at of yarns. This one's also a roving yarn, so it's loosely spun, or it's a single ply. I shouldn't say it's loosely spun. It is dense enough, but it just makes it so soft and the stitch is so crisp. And it comes in these gorgeous Malabrigo colors, of course. So that would be what I would recommend for this hooded scarf, the Shelter from the Storm. So we've got some more samples here for you. I designed a shawl at the beginning of the COVID quarantine that uses stash yarn because I couldn't get to my favorite local yarn shops. But now that we have the yarn crawl, you can make it here and check out some of their glorious, beautiful, exquisite, one-of-a-kind, and sparkly, wild skeins of yarn, hand-dyed, etc. So what I would recommend, think about your stash. If you have tons of green and earth tones, grab a ball of something special from your local yarn shop and you can make the fantastic stash shawl. So this shawl here uses, let me show you the front. This shawl here uses multiple yarns, anywhere from fingering weight to worsted weight. So it uses fingering, sport weight, DK, and worsted. What you'll do is you'll hold your fingering together with DK, you'll hold sport weight doubled, and you'll hold worsted weight singled, and then all the yarns are about the same size. And this pattern includes 4 different stitches that you can mix and match as you work the basic shawl. So this is my fantastic stash shawl. It's a great way to get something special from these yarn shops that you're visiting here on the crawl and mix in what you have at home too. So this is the fantastic stash. I've made 2 of them. Check out my Ravelry or Instagram pages. I've got some more up there. But yeah, that's the fantastic stash. It's a triangular shawl, and this one only uses garter stitch in the lace pattern, but I have a ribbing pattern and stockinette too, and I put those into the second shawl that I made. So that's the fantastic stash shawl, a great way to use up stash and also specialty yarns at your local shop that just you don't even know what you want to do with, but you have to have. I've been there. Now we've got 2 samples, and these are related to one another, made in Madeline Tosh DK. The first one is the XOXO hat, and this one's a bit of a beanie. It has a circle pattern on it, so a textured polka dot pattern made with knits and pearls, so very simple to make. And this was inspired by my sweater that I worked last year. This is the Embrace sweater, and it's a polka dot pullover. I wore it nearly to death. It's a lot of fun to make with the polka dots. But it's a classic set and sleeve crew neck pullover. And this one I made in Madeline Tosh DK. So YarnDezvous has a lot of really exquisite colors for the fall that you can use. I would recommend for these projects colors that aren't too multicolored. So the subtle kettle dye look of the Madeline Tosh is great, or solid color is wonderful, but too much multi and you won't see that awesome texture. And I also have a baby sweater pattern that uses the same texture, and I'm coming out with a baby blanket in a couple weeks too, that uses the same polka dot texture. I really love polka dots. So that is the Embrace pullover. We're getting into our sweaters now. Over the summer, I released this t-shirt called the Echo Tee, and it's a chevron with a lace pattern, and the lace separates ribbing from stockinette. So here I have rib, and at the bottom I have rib, and in between I have stockinette. This pattern comes with options for long sleeves. It's a worsted weight. I happen to have used the Wool Addicts Sunshine, which is a gorgeous chainette cotton from the Wool Addicts family, 100% mercerized cotton. And again, you can make it with long sleeves. This one was the summer version of my Heartbeats sweater, which is here. This is a chunky weight version of the same sweater. So we've got the ribbing at the bottom and the top separated by eyelet chevrons with stockinette in between. And for this sweater, we're recommending Wool Addicts Glory, which is, I wish you could feel this. It is super soft, buttery, squishy, lofty, and lightweight. So this would be what we're recommending at YarnDezvous for the for that sweater, for the Heartbeats pullover. All right, so I've got a few more of my favorites coming up. This one is the River Cable pullover, and it's got a really interesting looking cable that goes up the front of the sweater. It looks like it's difficult, but it's not. It's really an 8-stitch cable where you're only working 4 and 4 at a time. So it's not a challenging cable stitch. My favorite feature of this sweater is that these 2 exterior cables split at the neckline and come around the back, forming almost a necklace of that cable. And here are those stitches coming up the sleeves too. And I'll put this on so you can see what it looks like. But it's a funnel neck, set-in sleeve pullover. Most of my designs have seams on them. I'm a big believer in seams, giving sweaters a lot of structure and body, and also helping you get the right fit, because you can kind of see a part of a sweater in half. You're not looking at the entire circumference for an in the round type sweater. So heads up, a lot of seams, but the funnel neck here is great too because the cable comes straight up. So this is the River Cable pullover, and the yarn I used for it is the Malabrigo Rios. And there are some stunning colors here at YarnDezvous, and I think you should give it a whirl. It's really fun. So that's the River Cable pullover. All right, now I've got 2 more sweaters to show you. I'll start over here with this one. This is a chunky weight sweater cardigan with a cable running up the front. The sleeves, the cuffs are worked on the side, seamed here, and stitches are picked up this way. So the look of these stitches is kind of cool. It almost looks like a Tunisian crochet in the way that it goes on the side where the other stitches are going straight. And this is called the Revolve cardigan. And here again, that cable comes up the front of the sweater and then connects in the back here. It's a design element I really like to use in a lot of my sweaters. And this cable is a ribbed cable that's reversible. Not that you'll be reversing it, but it just makes it nice and puffy. The yarn we're recommending for this sweater is the Cascade 128 Superwash. And we have, as you can see, lots of really beautiful colors. It's a chunky yarn, but it's really lightweight. Like it's not dense, so it feels really soft to wear. So that would be what we're recommending for the Revolve cardigan here. And again, this one is seamed, so it does have seams to bring stability to the sweater. So our last sweater, I'm gonna break my rule. This one is not seamed. Recently, someone just finished this and said it was their first sweater, and they had a ball knitting it. I was so happy. This is my Moonstruck pullover. And this one's interesting because what I did was I took 2 self-striping yarns that are sport weight, and I held them together to create a heavy worsted chunky weight. And as the yarns striped with each other, they created all these amazing combinations of colors. So you can really go wild here with this sweater. You can go wild with this sweater and choose different colors and they just blend together in really fun ways. So this is worked from the top down. You'll cast on for the neck, work the body, you'll work the yoke, split for the body, then you'll work the sleeves, and then you'll pick up and work the collar here at the top. And I have had some people make this with just the crew neck and not the turtleneck here, and they've loved it. Same with actually the river cable pullover. Some people have just shortened this and made it a crew neck, and it looks just as lovely. So if you're sensitive about things being close to the neck, these are adaptable. And that's the best part of knitting, is that we can adapt so much of what we're making. So before we finish up, I just wanted to mention a few things. I have these sweaters and hats and accessories in package deals right now, so you can get a couple of them for a discounted price. Please visit me on Ravelry or Instagram or Facebook, and I'll have more information about those there. I'm at Shaina.Bilow on Instagram, and I'm Shaina Bilow on Ravelry or Shaina Bilow Designs on Facebook. I'd love for you to join my mailing list, catch up with me there. I have lots of new patterns that'll be coming out, and I always offer a nice discount to my newsletter subscribers. If you are averse to seaming, I know we talked about a lot of these sweaters being seamed, and that might make some of you nervous. The wonderful owner of YarnDezvous, Lori and Fran, do finishing here at the shop. So you can bring your finishing here for their expert finishing services. So you do the knitting, they put it together, and you have a beautiful sweater at the end. It was so nice being here with you, and I hope you'll try out some of my patterns and check out YarnDezvous. Stop by. We'd love to see you.